the humiliation. The most beautiful day turns into a nightmare. Arya Blackwood stood before the massive golden mirror in her dressing chamber, her hands trembling as her maids adjusted the final details of her wedding gown. The dress was a masterpiece of white silk and crystal beads that caught the morning light and threw rainbows across the stone walls. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. Today, she would marry Crown Prince Damien and become the future queen of Aldoria. "You look absolutely stunning, my lady," her personal maid, Eleanor, whispered with tears in her eyes. "The prince will be speechless when he sees you." Arya tried to smile, but something felt wrong. For the past 3 weeks, Prince Damien had been distant and cold. He cancelled their private dinners and avoided her during court gatherings. When she asked what was wrong, he simply said he was busy with royal duties. But Arya's heart told her a different story. Walking down the Aisle of Doom, the grand cathedral was packed with nobility from across the kingdom. Thousands of candles created a warm glow, and white roses filled every corner with their sweet perfume. As the orchestra began playing the wedding march, Arya took a deep breath and began her long walk down the aisle. Every eye in the cathedral turned to watch her. She saw the lords and ladies of the court, the foreign ambassadors, and the common people who had been allowed to witness this royal union. Her stepmother, Lady Constance, sat in the front row wearing a strange smile that made Arya's stomach twist. Next to her sat Arya's stepsister, Serafina, who looked far too happy for someone watching her sister get married. As Arya reached the altar, she finally looked at Prince Damien. He was handsome as always, with his dark hair and strong jaw, but his green eyes were cold. There was no love there, no warmth, no happiness, only something that looked like disgust. The high priest began the ceremony, his ancient voice filling the cathedral. "We are gathered here today to witness the sacred union between Crown Prince Damien of Aldoria and Lady Arya Blackwood of House Blackwood." But before the priest could continue, Prince Damien raised his hand. "Stop," he said loudly. The public rejection. The cathedral fell completely silent. Even the candles seemed to stop flickering. "I cannot marry this woman," Damien announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the massive hall. Arya felt like she had been stabbed in the heart. What are you saying?" she whispered. Damien turned to face the crowd, speaking as if Arya wasn't even there. "I have been forced into this engagement by my father's old promises, but I will not be forced into a loveless marriage. My heart belongs to another." Gasps echoed through the cathedral. Arya's vision started to blur with tears, but she refused to let them fall. "Not here. Not in front of everyone." "Who?" she managed to ask, though she already knew the answer. Damien smiled and gestured toward the front row. "The woman I truly love is Lady Serafina Blackwood. She is everything a future queen should be, graceful, intelligent, and worthy of standing beside a king." Serafina stood up slowly, her face showing fake surprise, but her eyes gleamed with victory. She walked up to the altar and took Damien's hand, standing right next to Arya. "You knew?" Arya asked her stepsister, her voice breaking. "You've been seeing him behind my back?" "Oh, sweet sister," Serafina said with a cruel smile. "We've been together for over a year. Did you really think a man like Damien could love someone as plain and boring as you?" The words cut deeper than any sword. Arya looked at Damien, hoping he would deny it, hoping this was all some terrible nightmare. But he simply reached into his jacket and pulled out their marriage contract, the sacred document that bound their houses together. "This contract means nothing to me," Damien said coldly. Then, in front of the entire kingdom, he tore the contract into pieces and let them fall to the ground like dead leaves. The family betrayal. Arya stumbled backward, barely able to breathe. She looked desperately at her stepmother, hoping for some support, some defense. But Lady Constance simply smiled the same cold smile as her daughter. "Did you really think you deserved all this, Arya?" her stepmother called out from her seat. "You, the daughter of a second wife? Your father made a mistake when he promised you to the prince. You were never good enough for this position." "My father loved me," Arya said, her voice weak. He wanted this marriage. Your father was a fool, Constance interrupted cruelly. And now that he's dead, there's no one to protect you or your ridiculous dreams. Everything your father left behind, the title, the lands, the fortune, it all belongs to my daughter now. That's not legal, Arya protested. I'm the eldest. The inheritance is mine by law. Serafina laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Oh, dear sister, do you think anyone cares about law when you have no powerful allies? The prince himself is rejecting you. Who do you think will stand up for your rights now? Arya looked around the cathedral, desperately searching for a friendly face, someone who might defend her. But everyone looked away. Some faces showed pity, but most showed indifference or even satisfaction at seeing her fall from grace. Stripped of everything. Guards! Damien called out. Remove Lady Arya from this cathedral. She is no longer welcome in the capital. 6 royal guards marched forward, their armor clanking with each step. Arya wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. She stood frozen in place as the guards surrounded her. Wait! She cried out. I am Lady Arya Blackwood. I have rights. You have nothing, Damien said with finality. By the power granted to me as Crown Prince, I strip you of your title, your lands, and your place in noble society. You are banished from the capital, effective immediately. But I have no money, no home, nowhere to go, Arya pleaded, all dignity forgotten in the face of complete destruction. That is not my concern, Damien replied coldly. He turned to Serafina and took her hand gently, the same hand he had refused to hold when he was engaged to Arya. Shall we proceed with the real wedding, my love? Serafina giggled like a delighted child. Oh yes, my prince. Let's not waste another moment. As the guards began dragging Arya down the aisle, she heard the high priest begin the ceremony again, this time with Serafina in her place. The guests who had come to see Arya's wedding stayed to witness her replacement's triumph. Arya's beautiful white dress dragged across the cathedral floor, getting dirty and torn. Her carefully arranged hair came loose and fell around her face. The crystal beads on her gown caught on the rough stone and broke free, scattering across the ground like fallen tears. Cast into the wilderness. The guards didn't just escort Arya out of the cathedral. They took her to the city gates and literally threw her out into the wilderness beyond the capital walls. She landed hard on the dirt road, scraping her hands and knees. Don't come back, one guard warned. If you're seen within city limits again, you'll be arrested and thrown in the dungeons. The gates slammed shut behind her with a sound of finality. Arya was truly alone. She walked for hours, not knowing where she was going, just needing to get as far from the capital as possible. The wedding dress, once so beautiful, became a burden that caught on every branch and stone. She finally tore off the long train and left it behind. Night fell, and Arya realized she had no food, no water, and no shelter. She had never been outside the protected walls of the capital before. Every sound in the dark forest made her jump with fear. Were those wolves howling in the distance? She didn't want to find out. By the second day, Arya was starving and desperate. She tried to eat berries from a bush, but they made her violently sick. She drank from a stream but didn't know if the water was safe. Her feet were bloody and blistered. Her beautiful dress was now just dirty rags, and she had lost all hope. On the third day, Arya simply collapsed beside a large oak tree. She was too weak to continue, too heartbroken to care anymore. Maybe death would be better than living with such pain and humiliation. The mysterious savior. Arya was drifting in and out of consciousness when she heard footsteps approaching. She tried to open her eyes, but everything was blurry. Well, a deep male voice said. What do we have here? A noble lady dying in the wilderness? How dramatic. Please, Arya whispered. Help me. Strong arms lifted her off the ground as if she weighed nothing. Arya caught a glimpse of a man's face. Sharp features, dark eyes that seemed to glow red in certain angles, and black hair tied back in a warrior's style. Don't worry, little bird, the man said softly. I won't let you die. Not when you might be useful to me. Arya wanted to ask what he meant, but darkness claimed her completely. When she woke up, she was lying on a soft bed in a tent made of black silk. Her wounds had been treated and bandaged. She was wearing clean clothes, simple but comfortable. For a moment, she thought maybe it had all been a terrible dream. Then the tent flap opened, and the man who had saved her entered. He was tall and muscular, wearing dark leather armor that marked him as a warrior. His face was handsome but dangerous, like a sword that could cut you if you weren't careful. "You're awake," he observed, sitting down in a chair across from her. "Good. We need to talk." "Who are you?" Arya asked weakly. "My name is Cale Shadowborn," he replied. "And I know exactly who you are, Lady Arya Blackwood. Or should I say, former Lady Arya? I heard about your very public humiliation at the cathedral. News travels fast, even to those of us in exile." Arya's face burned with shame. Even strangers in the wilderness knew about her disgrace. "Why did you save me?" she asked. Cale smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. "Because I have a proposition for you. I need help and you need revenge. I think we can help each other." The dark offer. "I don't understand," Arya said, sitting up despite her weakness. "What kind of help could I possibly give you? I have nothing. I am nothing." "That's where you're wrong," Cale said, leaning forward with intensity. "You have something very valuable. You have motivation. You've been betrayed by everyone you trusted. Your fiancé humiliated you publicly. Your family stole everything from you. You want revenge, don't you?" Arya wanted to deny it, to say she was above such dark feelings. But the truth was, she did want revenge. She wanted Damien to suffer. She wanted Serafina to feel the same humiliation she had felt. She wanted her stepmother to lose everything, just as Arya had lost everything. "Yes," she admitted quietly. "I want revenge." Cale nodded with satisfaction. "Good. Honest. I like that. Now let me tell you my story. I am the exiled prince of the Shadow Realm. My brother betrayed me and stole my throne 3 years ago. I've been gathering allies and resources, waiting for the right moment to strike back and reclaim what's mine." "What does this have to do with me?" Arya asked. "Your kingdom of Aldoria shares a border with the Shadow Realm," Cale explained. "Your crown Prince Damien is weak, more interested in his pretty new wife than in actually ruling. His kingdom is starting to crumble from within because of his incompetence. I need someone who understands Aldoria's politics, someone who can help me navigate the noble houses and find allies within your kingdom." "And what do I get in return?" Arya asked, starting to understand. Cale's smile widened. "I help you destroy everything they hold dear. I help you become so powerful that Damien and Serafina will wish they had never crossed you. I help you take revenge in ways that will make your former family beg for mercy." It was a dark offer from a dangerous man. The old Arya, the naive girl who believed in love and honor, would have refused immediately. But that Arya had died in the cathedral when Damien tore up their marriage contract. This new Arya, forged in betrayal and abandonment, looked Cale Shadowborn in the eye and said, "I accept your offer. Teach me everything I need to know. Make me strong enough to destroy them all." Cale extended his hand. "Then we have a deal. Welcome to the beginning of your transformation, Lady Arya. When we're done, the kingdom that rejected you will be begging you to return." As Arya shook his hand, she felt something inside her change. The heartbroken girl who cried at the altar was gone forever. In her place was someone new, someone harder, smarter, and infinitely more dangerous. Prince Damien and Lady Serafina had made a terrible mistake. They thought they had destroyed Arya Blackwood, but they had only created their own worst enemy. The revenge was just beginning. Training in the Shadow Realm. The Shadow Realm was nothing like Arya had imagined. Instead of a dark, evil place, it was a land of deep forests with silver leaves, mountains that touched purple skies, and cities built from black stone that gleamed like obsidian under 3 moons. It was beautiful in a dangerous, wild way. Cale's camp was hidden deep in the mountains, protected by magic and loyal warriors. There were about 50 people living there, soldiers, strategists, and refugees who had fled from Kale's brother's cruel reign. Starting tomorrow, your new life begins, Kale told Arya on her first night in the camp. I won't lie to you. The training will be hard, maybe harder than anything you've ever experienced. But if you want revenge, if you want power, you have to earn it. Arya was still weak from her ordeal in the wilderness, but determination burned in her chest. I'm ready. When do we start? Kale smiled slightly. We start before dawn. Get some rest. You'll need it. The physical training. The next morning, Arya learned exactly what Kale meant by hard training. A warrior woman named Raven woke her up before the sun rose and led her to the training grounds. I heard you're a noble lady, Raven said, looking Arya up and down with obvious doubt. Noble ladies usually break on the first day. Let's see if you're different. The training was brutal. Arya had to run up mountain paths until her lungs burned and her legs felt like jelly. She had to practice sword fighting until her arms ached so badly she could barely lift them. She had to learn hand-to-hand combat, which meant getting thrown to the ground over and over again. By the end of the first day, every muscle in Arya's body screamed with pain. She had bruises everywhere and could barely walk back to her tent. Raven watched her struggle and shook her head. You'll quit tomorrow, Raven predicted. They always do. But Arya didn't quit. Not the next day or the day after that or the day after that. Every morning when Raven came to wake her, Arya was already up and ready. When she got knocked down, she stood back up. When her sword got knocked from her hand, she picked it up and tried again. Something had changed inside her. Every time she felt like giving up, she remembered standing at that altar while Damien tore up their marriage contract. She remembered Seraphina's cruel laughter. She remembered being thrown out of the city gates like garbage. The pain of training was nothing compared to the pain of humiliation she had suffered, and that memory fueled her through every difficult moment. After 3 months, Raven approached Arya with something new in her eyes: respect. You're stronger than I thought, Raven admitted. Most noble ladies would have run crying after 1 week. But you've lasted 3 months, and you're actually getting good. I'm impressed. Coming from Raven, that was high praise, and Arya had to admit she felt different. Her body was stronger and leaner. Her reflexes were faster. She could fight now, really fight, not just wave a sword around prettily like noble ladies were taught to do for ceremonies. Discovering hidden magic. One evening, Kale asked Arya to meet him in a clearing away from the main camp. When she arrived, she found him sitting beside a small fire and waiting for her. It's time we talked about your magic, Kale said without preamble. Arya was confused. I don't have magic. I've never shown any magical ability. My family always said I was completely ordinary. Your family lied to you, Kale said firmly. Sit down. I need to tell you something about your mother, your real mother. Arya sat down slowly. No one ever talked about her real mother, who had died when Arya was just a baby. Her father had remarried quickly, bringing Lady Constance and Seraphina into their home. Arya had no memories of her real mother at all. Your mother was Alara Moon Whisper, Kale said, watching Arya's face carefully. She was from a powerful magical bloodline. The Moon Whispers were known throughout all the realms for their ability to manipulate light and shadow. Your mother was one of the most gifted magic users of her generation. That's impossible, Arya whispered. If my mother had magic, I would have inherited it. I would have shown signs as a child. Not if someone suppressed it, Kale replied darkly. Magic suppression is possible with the right potions and spells. If someone gave you something regularly from childhood, say in your food or drink, they could have kept your powers dormant without you ever knowing. Arya thought back to her childhood. Her stepmother had always insisted that Arya take a health tonic every morning with breakfast. Lady Constance said it was to keep Arya strong and healthy. But what if it had actually been suppressing her magic? My stepmother, Arya realized with growing anger. She knew. She knew I had magic, and she spent years suppressing it so I would seem ordinary. So no one would see me as a threat. Most likely, Kale agreed. But the good news is, now that you've been away from those potions for several months, your magic is starting to wake up. Haven't you noticed anything unusual? Strange dreams? Lights flickering around you? Shadows moving when they shouldn't? Now that Kale mentioned it, Arya had noticed strange things. Sometimes when she was angry during training, the shadows around her seemed to grow darker and move toward her like they were alive. She had thought she was imagining it, but maybe not. Can you teach me to use this magic? Arya asked eagerly. Kale nodded. I can help, but you'll need to practice. Your mother's people could control both light and shadow. They were rare magic users who walked between both powers. Let's see which one comes naturally to you. Learning to control magic. Over the next few months, Arya discovered she had strong magical abilities, especially with shadow manipulation. She could make shadows move and dance. She could hide herself in darkness, becoming almost invisible. She could even use shadows as weapons, forming them into solid shapes that could strike or defend. The light magic was harder for her, maybe because the shadows matched her current dark feelings of anger and revenge. But slowly, she learned to create small lights and to manipulate existing light sources. You're a natural, Kale said one evening after Arya successfully created a shield of solid shadow that blocked his magical attack. With your bloodline and proper training, you could become one of the most powerful magic users in all the realms. Arya looked at her hands, watching shadows dance between her fingers like living creatures. My stepmother tried to suppress this, to make me powerless. She wanted me weak and dependent. But you're not weak anymore, Kale pointed out. You're becoming exactly what she feared: strong, powerful, and dangerous, building a network of allies. As Arya's training continued, Kale began including her in his strategy meetings. She learned that many noble houses in both Aldoria and the Shadow Realm were unhappy with their current rulers. Damien was proving to be a terrible prince, more interested in parties and pleasure than actually governing. Meanwhile, Kale's brother ruled the Shadow Realm with cruelty and fear. We need allies, Kale explained during one meeting. Neither of us can take back what's ours alone. But together, with the right support, we can change everything. Arya proved surprisingly good at strategy and politics. Years of watching court politics from the sidelines had taught her how nobles thought and what motivated them. She helped Kale identify which houses might be turned to their side and which were too loyal to the current rulers to ever change. They sent secret messages to discontented nobles. They offered protection to refugees fleeing from Kale's brother's cruelty. Slowly but surely, their small camp grew into something more, a real force that could challenge kingdoms. You have a gift for this? Kale told Arya after she successfully convinced a powerful merchant family to support their cause. You see connections that others miss. You understand what people want and how to offer it to them. Arya smiled. I spent years being invisible at court, watching and listening while everyone ignored me. I learned more than they realized. Unexpected feelings. As the months passed and turned into a year, something unexpected happened. Arya and Kale, who had started as allies with a business arrangement, began to develop deeper feelings for each other. Started small. Kale would bring Arya her favorite tea after a hard day of training. Arya would stay up late helping Kale plan strategies, sitting closer to him than necessary. They would find excuses to spend time together beyond their training and planning sessions. One evening, after a particularly successful mission where they had secured the support of 3 more noble houses, Kale and Arya sat together, watching the 3 moons rise over the Shadow Realm. I never thanked you properly, Arya said quietly, for saving my life that day, for giving me a chance when I had nothing. Kale turned to look at her, and something soft entered his usually serious expression. You've repaid that debt 100 times over. You've become essential to our cause, Arya. I can't imagine doing any of this without you now. Is that the only reason? Arya asked, her heart beating faster. Because I'm useful to your plans? Kale reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. At first, yes. I saved you because I thought you could help me. But now... He paused, seeming to struggle with the words. Now I wake up every morning grateful that I found you. Not because you're useful, but because you're you. You're brave and smart and strong. You could have broken after what they did to you, but instead you became something amazing. Arya felt tears in her eyes, but this time they were happy tears. I thought I would never trust anyone again after what Damien and my family did to me. But I trust you, Kale. You've never lied to me or tried to use me for your own gain without being honest about it. I would never hurt you the way they did, Kale promised, taking her hand. What we have is built on honesty and mutual respect. We're partners, Arya. Equals. The kiss that followed was gentle and sweet, nothing like the formal, empty kisses Damien had given her during their engagement. This was real, filled with genuine feeling and trust. News from Aldoria. Their growing happiness was interrupted a few weeks later when a spy returned from Aldoria with disturbing news. Prince Damien married Lady Seraphina 6 months after his rejection of Lady Arya, the spy reported during a council meeting. But the marriage has been a disaster. Seraphina spends money faster than the treasury can collect it. She's demanding jewels, dresses, and luxuries constantly. The common people are starting to suffer because taxes have been raised to pay for her extravagance. What about Damien? Arya asked, trying to keep her voice neutral. The prince spends most of his time drinking and gambling, the spy continued. He seems to have lost interest in ruling. The Council of Nobles actually runs the kingdom now, and they're not doing a much better job. There are food shortages, crime is rising, and several border villages have been attacked by bandits. Kale looked at Arya with significance. A kingdom in chaos is a kingdom ripe for change. Another spy added more information. There's more, my lady. Lady Seraphina has made herself very unpopular at court. She's cruel to the servants and demands constant attention. Many nobles who initially supported her are now regretting it. They're starting to whisper that Damien should have married you after all. Arya felt a dark satisfaction at hearing this. They were suffering just as she had hoped they would. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. The perfect plan forms. That night, Arya and Kale stayed up late discussing their next move. Aldoria's grand festival is in 3 months, Arya said thoughtfully. It's the biggest celebration of the year. Noble houses from across the realm attend, and even foreign dignitaries are invited. The kingdom opens its gates to everyone. Kale immediately understood where she was going with this. We could attend as foreign nobles from the Shadow Realm. No one would question it during the festival. Better than that, Arya said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. I have an idea that will let us walk right into the heart of the court, gather allies, and destroy Damien and Seraphina from within. But it requires perfect timing and a complete transformation. What kind of transformation? Kale asked. Arya smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone planning the perfect revenge. I have magic now that I didn't have before. We can use it to completely change my appearance. No one will recognize me, not Damien, not Seraphina, not even my stepmother. I'll be a mysterious foreign lady, powerful and wealthy, and Damien will fall right into our trap. Kale listened as Arya outlined her plan, and his smile grew to match hers. It was brilliant. It was cruel. It was perfect. When they realize who you really are, Kale said with satisfaction, it will be too late. Everything they have will already be ours. The transformation complete. The next 2 months were spent in intense preparation. Arya worked with the camp's magic users to create a disguise that would completely change her appearance. They gave her darker skin, different colored eyes, and even changed the structure of her face slightly. Her white blonde hair became deep black with subtle red highlights. She practiced a different accent and studied the customs of distant lands so she could convincingly play the role of a foreign dignitary. Kale had expensive gowns made for her, each one more stunning than the last, designed to catch every eye at court. When Arya looked at herself in the mirror on the day they were to leave for Aldoria, she barely recognized herself. The girl who had been humiliated at the altar was completely gone. In her place stood a powerful, mysterious woman who radiated confidence and danger. What should I call myself? Arya asked Kale. Something that hints at your true power, Kale suggested. Something that will make sense when you reveal yourself. Arya thought for a moment, then smiled. Lady Morgana Darkwhisper, dignitary from the Eastern Shadow Territories. Perfect, Kale agreed. Are you ready for this? Once we enter Aldoria, there's no turning back. Arya looked at her reflection one more time, seeing not the rejected bride, but the architect of perfect revenge. I've been ready for this since the day you found me dying in the wilderness, she said firmly. Let's go remind them what they threw away. Let's make them regret every moment they made me suffer. Kale offered her his arm. Then let's go show them what real power looks like. As they rode toward Aldoria with their small but impressive entourage, Arya felt no fear, only anticipation. Prince Damien and Lady Seraphina had no idea what was coming for them. The rejected bride was returning. But this time, she was returning as their worst nightmare. The grand entrance. The grand festival of Aldoria was even more spectacular than Arya remembered. The entire capital city was decorated with colorful banners and lights. Music filled the air, and the smell of roasted meats and sweet pastries wafted from every corner. The royal palace had opened its gates, and nobles from across the realm mingled with foreign dignitaries in the great hall. When Lady Morgana Darkwhisper and her companion, Lord Kale Shadowborn, were announced at the entrance to the ballroom, every conversation stopped. All eyes turned to watch them enter. Arya had designed this moment perfectly. She wore a gown of midnight blue silk that seemed to shimmer with captured starlight. Diamonds sparkled at her throat and in her hair. But more than the expensive clothes, it was her presence that captured attention. She walked like someone who knew her own power, her head held high, a mysterious smile playing on her lips. Beside her, Kale looked equally impressive in dark formal attire that emphasized his warrior's build. Together, they looked like visiting royalty. Powerful, wealthy, and not to be trifled with. Who is that? Arya heard someone whisper. Lady Morgana Darkwhisper from the Eastern Shadow Territories. Another voice answered. I heard she controls entire merchant fleets and has alliances with 3 major kingdoms. The rumors they had carefully spread before arriving were working perfectly. Everyone wanted to meet the mysterious Lady Morgana and secure her favor. As they moved through the crowd, accepting greetings and making small talk, Arya's eyes found her targets. Prince Damien stood near the throne, looking bored and slightly drunk. Beside him, Lady Seraphina wore a gown that was so covered in jewels it looked heavy and uncomfortable. She was laughing too loudly at something a courtier had said, clearly trying to be the center of attention. Neither of them recognized Arya. Why would they? The powerful woman in the midnight blue gown bore no resemblance to the crying, broken girl they had rejected a year ago. The prince takes the bait. It didn't take long for Prince Damien to notice Lady Morgana. Arya felt his eyes on her as she danced with Kale, moving gracefully across the floor while other couples watched enviously. He's staring at you, Kale murmured quietly. The trap is working. Good, Arya replied with a smile. Let him stare. Let him want what he can't have. It's only the beginning. After the dance, as planned, Kale excused himself to talk business with some of the noble lords they had identified as potential allies. This left Arya alone, an irresistible opportunity for the prince. Damien approached within minutes, his steps slightly unsteady from drinking. Lady Morgana, he said with what he probably thought was a charming smile. I don't believe we've been properly introduced. I am Crown Prince Damien of Aldoria. Arya curtsied gracefully, keeping her expression polite but distant. Your Highness, it's an honor to meet you. The honor is mine, Damien said, his eyes traveling over her in a way that made Arya's skin crawl. I must say, you are by far the most beautiful woman at this festival. Would you grant me the pleasure of a dance? Arya pretended to consider this, then smiled. I would be delighted, Your Highness. As they moved onto the dance floor, Arya could feel Seraphina's jealous glare boring into her back. Perfect. let her stepsister feel the same jealousy and insecurity that Arya had felt.